Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be talking about Nonfiction November and my sort of TBR situation with that. So if you aren't aware, Nonfiction November is a thing that Olive from A Book Olive hosts every November, and it's basically a way to encourage more people on BookTube to read nonfiction books. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I really enjoy nonfiction books. It doesn't take up like half of my reading or anything along those lines, but it usually takes up between like 20 to 25% of my overall reading every year. And so, yes, I enjoy nonfiction. I enjoy encouraging other people to read nonfiction, and so I like to participate in Nonfiction November when I can. The thing with Nonfiction November is that even if you just read one nonfiction book, you're technically participating, but the idea is to encourage people to pick up more nonfiction than they normally would. So I will have a link to Olive's video about this year's Nonfiction November in case you want more information. She also comes up with these one-word prompts to help you maybe pick out books for your TBR or just like sort of a fun challenge sort of situation. So as many of you watching this are probably aware, October was a really weird reading month for me, but I can tell that I'm starting to get out of it a little bit and starting to get back into the swing of things. And originally, like, when Olive first started talking about Nonfiction November a couple of weeks ago on Twitter and stuff, I was a little bit hesitant about whether or not I would participate because I didn't know if nonfiction was really going to work for me. But sort of like a bonus nonfiction book that I'm going to talk about really quickly, I started reading Locking Up Our Own, Crime and Punishment in Black America by James Forman Jr. This won the Pulitzer Prize this year, and one of my New Year's resolutions is to read Pulitzer Prize winning nonfiction books. And so I bought this earlier this year and I've been reading it and really enjoying it. And it just has been reminding me of how much I love nonfiction. And so this has sort of been a really nice teaser going into Nonfiction November and made me really excited about nonfiction again. So yes, thanks to this book, I'm participating in Nonfiction November, at least as much as I can. So like I said, Olive comes up with these word prompts. Now, what I'm going to do instead of like putting up the prompt and talking about a book I could read for it, literally just going to talk about all of the nonfiction books that I own and then what prompts they would potentially fill. I'm not going to try to like fill all of the prompts. There's like 4 pairs of words, and so I'm not going to try to fulfill all 4 pairs. I'm literally just going to try to read as much nonfiction as I can. I don't think I'm going to read solely nonfiction because that's not really good for my brain. I need a little bit of variety, but yeah, I'm going to try to read as much nonfiction as I can. So if I'm being completely honest, the one book I really want to read in November, which is probably, yeah, it is the biggest book that I have, the biggest nonfiction book that I have. It's Blood in the Water, The Attica Prison Uprising of 1971 and Its Legacy by Heather Ann Thompson. This won the Pulitzer Prize last year. It won the Pulitzer for History. And yeah, I bought this last December. This was a Christmas present to myself because, you know, nothing says Merry Christmas like reading about prison uprisings. So this is a book that could fill the prompt pastime, because pastime could mean history, and this is obviously a history book. I almost dropped it there. But this could also potentially fulfill the micro-macro pairing because this, I think, it also just talks about the prison system in general and the conditions occurring in prisons in the United States that led to this uprising happening. So yeah, this is the one I'm most excited about, partially because, like I said, I just finished reading, or I'm almost done with reading a Pulitzer Prize winner right now, and it's like, anytime I read a Pulitzer Prize winning nonfiction book, I'm always just reminded of how great they always are for me. And so since this one is a Pulitzer Prize winner as well, I feel like this would be a good one to pick up. The problem is that this is huge and it's also like really heavy. So I need to get an ebook version of this, and my library doesn't have an ebook copy of it. So I might just need to bite the bullet and buy an ebook version of this so that way I can read it while on my commute. Or I could just drag this puppy around, but yeah, probably not the best idea. So to counteract that huge book, I have a bunch of smaller books as well. I still have Tell Me How It Ends, an Essay in 40 Questions by Valeria Luiselli. I think I talked about this in About a Books TBR. I wanted to read this book and I never did. This one could possibly also fulfill the prompt of micro macro because this is looking at, this one could, if I want to really stretch it, fulfill the micro prompt because this is an essay collection of basically information that Valeria Luiselli has collected from kids who are being held in asylums and detention centers, and just the information that she's collected working as a translator for them. So yeah, let's go with that. Another shorter book that I just recently received is The Battle of Lincoln Park, Urban Renewal and Gentrification in Chicago by Daniel K. Hertz. This book was sent to me by Liberty Hardy from Book Riot. She had a copy of this and was like, hey, would you be interested in it? And I was like, yeah. I currently work in Lincoln Park, and obviously like Lincoln Park is a really well-known neighborhood in the Chicagoland area. It is a really affluent area at the moment. And so this book, I believe, talks about the history of that neighborhood and how it went from being a predominantly middle-class neighborhood like in the 1940s-ish, and then I think it was like the 60s or the 70s when it really started to boom economically, and how things have changed significantly. So yes, this is another tiny book, but I'm really interested in books about gentrification and neighborhood changes and things like that, and especially since this one takes place in Chicago, I just feel like this would fit. Oh, and this one would probably also fit the pastime and also maybe the micro and macro history, or micro and macro ones. I don't know, depending on how large or small the view that this book takes, it could fit that one, but definitely fits pastime. Another book that I mentioned in my About Our Books TBR that I tried to do a while ago and failed at completely is Well, That Escalated Quickly, Memoirs and Mistakes of an Accidental Activist by Franchesca Ramsey. This is a memoir about Franchesca Ramsey's sort of quick rise to internet fame. I've always enjoyed her channel a lot and the work that she does now as just sort of someone who is willing to educate other people about race and racism and social justice issues and things along those lines. This could fit the self prompt because it's a memoir, so it's a memoir about herself. So yeah, this one might be nice to have in the mix because it's, you know, a little bit shorter, a little bit lighter. So it'll be an easier one to read during the month if I need something lighter. All right, next I have Truth and Beauty by Ann Patchett. This is, I think, like a memoir, but it's also kind of not a memoir. It's a nonfiction book about Ann Patchett and her best friend named Lucy. Yes. So Lucy, I believe, had cancer and eventually passed away. And so I believe that this book is about like sort of their friendship and their relationship and just all of the things that they went through together, and then eventually, you know, realizing that you're going to lose each other at some point. So yes, this one also fits the self prompt. I also feel like this, if I wanted to stretch it to fit the wonder prompt, just because Ann Patchett, I feel like, has this sense of wonder when she looks at the world and the people around her. And I haven't read a lot of her nonfiction. Like I read her essay collection, Story of a Happy Marriage, which is partially autobiographical, but this would be my first like memoir type of situation, like longer nonfiction that I read from her. But I feel like just the way that she looks at the world and the way that she talks about the world, she has this sense of wonder. So I'm stretching it, I am aware, but I will make it work. All right, and the final physical book that I have to talk about in this video is Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. This is subtitled Some Instructions on Writing and Life. This is one of those like highly regarded nonfiction books about writing, and so I've read like selections out of here, but I've never read the entire book all the way through. So this would work also for the micro macro category, just because this is like, you know, focusing in on writing. But also I feel like this works for the self shelf one because this has been sitting on my bookshelf forever. Like this is one of the oldest books sitting on my bookshelf, my to be read shelf, I should say. So yes, I kind of just like need to read this so that way I can finally move it off of that shelf. All right, so yeah, that's the last of my physical nonfiction books. I also have Questlove's Creative Quest on audiobook that I'm currently in the middle of. Like I'm basically 50% way through that audiobook at the moment, and I don't think I'm going to finish it before October's out unless I do a marathon listening session this weekend, which is possible. So yeah, that could be an audiobook I listen to in November. It's a book about creativity, so I always enjoy those. I also have Dare to Be, the new Brene Brown book, on audiobook, so there's that. And then I pre-ordered the Michelle Obama memoir that's coming out in November, and so I feel like when that comes out I'm just gonna immediately start listening to it. So yeah, that's probably going to get at least partially listened to. So those all work for self as well because, you know, they're books about yourself or memoirs or books that cause you to like analyze yourself, or all 3. So yes, that is literally every nonfiction book I have on my shelf. I was very tempted to go to the library and start checking out a bunch of nonfiction books, and then I realized that that's a dumb idea because I have too many books on my TBR currently, and I haven't been reading any of them because of my weird reading mood, so I should probably focus on those. So yes, those are the nonfiction books I currently have on my shelf that I need to read, so I'm going to try to work in as many of those as possible. We'll see what happens. So yes, if you want to follow me on like Goodreads or Instagram or anything like that to see updates of what I'm reading throughout the month, you can do that. Links are down in the description. If you are participating in Nonfiction November, let me know down in the comments below and let me know what books you plan on reading yourself, or if you've read any of these books, you can always leave comments telling me your thoughts and opinions on them. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.